was the only one in the neighborhood who owned the old school handbell that made that particular kind of noise. It was very definite. "Claudia!" a voice rolled out, as if to dispel any doubts. It was the voice of Mrs. Harper, Claudia's mother. "Coming!" Claudia yelled. Then she muttered, "I don't understand how I ever thought that bell was a good idea. Now it makes me feel like a sheep or a cow." "Well, you like animals," Duffy offered helpfully. "Liking something doesn't mean you want to be it," Claudia said, exasperated. With a groan, she threw down her apple core, grabbed the branch between her legs, and did a backflip down to the next branch. She slid past the branch so quickly and on down to the ground that Duffy, following after, looked as if he thought she might have killed herself. When he got down himself, the slow way via the trunk, he found Claudia lying flat on the ground, arms and legs splayed out so she looked like a beached starfish. Her eyes were wide open and staring. Duffy poked her. "Hey, Claudia, are you dead?" he whispered. Claudia blinked at him, then drew her knees up to her face, hugging them and at the same time grinning through them at Duffy. Duffy, relieved, giggled. "All curled up like that? You look like a dead bird, Claudia." "Well, you know what you look like, Duffy? You look like something mighty fat. I can see from here that you are developing a very big stomach. Ha! With all those brains you have and with that big stomach, I think that's where you keep your brains, in your stomach. You're probably the only boy in the whole world running around with a stomach full of smart brains." Looking pleased, Duffy puffed out his cheeks with air, stuck out his stomach, and patted it proudly. Duffy's stomach, bulging tightly under his pale green striped t-shirt, made him look as if he were pounding a ripe watermelon. Both Claudia and Duffy giggled wildly. "Claudia!" The voice was more insistent, and Claudia leaped lightly to her feet, heading for the fence. She stopped, however, when she realized that Duffy wasn't following her. "Aren't you coming?" she asked. "Do you think I should?" "Why shouldn't you?" "Your mother said she didn't want you playing with me so much. That's why I shouldn't," Duffy said. Still, he looked hopeful. "Come on," Claudia said. "She's over that." She sounded as if her mother had finally recovered from a long-term childhood disease. Duffy started toward her, his action suddenly putting into motion a stringy black mongrel who had been peacefully dozing in the sunshine and now realized almost too late that he was being left behind. This was Caesar's ghost, Duffy's dog, who bounded after the children. As they hoisted themselves up and over the fence, he stood with paws up, stretched thin, with pleading eyes and an optimistic tail flailing the air joyously. He was rewarded only by a look of apology from Duffy. Claudia and Duffy dropped over the fence into the Hennessy yard and tore across with the Hennessy dog, Prince, barking at their heels. Prince was only 18 inches long and 1 foot high, but he had somehow never found this out about himself and was, of all the dogs in the neighborhood, the fiercest and the noisiest. The children reached the opposite side of the yard safely and scaled the white rail fence into the Friedman yard, where they found the Hennessy twins, Robin and Robbie, playing rope with Leonie and Maurice Friedman. Rope wasn't even a game, really, just something where everyone had a piece of string or rope and ran around dragging it on the ground, making animal or cowboy noises. Claudia and Duffy both thought it was terribly dumb. Anyway, as they trailed through the yard trying to look as if they weren't trespassing, the Friedman's dog, Bagel, leaped over to them and nearly knocked them over with friendliness. Bagel was, like his neighbor dogs, a mongrel, but he was larger than the other two put together, mostly German shepherd, the Friedmans said. He had a long tongue which nearly always hung out, drooling, and he loved everyone in the whole world violently. Postmen, milkmen, burglars, everyone. The children all stopped waving their ropes around and stood staring at Claudia and Duffy with round eyes. "Your mother is calling you," Robin Hennessy said. "Thanks a lot," said Claudia. She hadn't intended to sound snotty, but little kids were always telling you something that was already as plain as their noses. They probably didn't notice how she sounded anyway. She gave Bagel a self-conscious